Hello, everyone. My name's Jerome. Welcome to my channel and also my first ever video. Um, Today, I am using the Sims 3 Creator World tool to redesign an EA town, Twinbrook, that came with the Sims 3 ambitions. My idea sort of behind this world redesign is to let me sort of understand how Creator World works, because it's not that easy to use. And also B, I've always thought Twinbrook had a lot of potential in that, it's really nice, but then there's also bits of it that are like really disgusting. And I don't know, I was always like, what if we work to make the whole thing relatively nice. It's also a good way to integrate the town with other expansion packs, because with say The Sims 3 Late Night and Showtime, there were no real 64 by 64 lots that were included in Twinbrook, meaning that you couldn't place any of the vital sort of lots that you needed to make the game compatible with those expansions. So it's sort of, a way to sort of counteract all of that. And also just to bring a bit of life back to the game, I suppose, in a way. I'm going to enjoy it. So what I'm doing, my idea, there's a few different sort of sections to the world that I want to change. But I imagine that the town of Twinbrook in the last 10 years since the game's been released has gone through a bit of a gentrification process, which, if you're not familiar, it happens a lot where I live. I live in Melbourne, Australia. What happens is that there are these suburbs or these towns that were previously, not that flash, that start to become popular, and they develop a cafe culture, and a lot of not necessarily hipsters, but a lot of millennials and quote unquote cool people start to move there, and it develops a bit of a culture behind it. So my idea is that's what's sort of happening, perhaps in the fictional town or city near the Twinbrook. Perhaps those housing prices are going up, therefore pushing people sort of out a bit, out into the suburbs. And that's, where Twinbrook sort of comes in. But what I'm doing today is the first part of the redesign is an arts precinct. So what I've done is, you would have seen already, I've deleted a few of the sort of swampy houses, as well as the big junkyard, which unfortunately I don't have any plans on putting back. So if you want to play the Ambitions version, maybe don't use my version. But the idea is to create an arts precinct where the big venues have been built. I imagine there's been some funding for the town of Twinbrook from the local government or something, to sort of create a really big space for people to come and experience a live show, or even a game, or music, performance, theatre, musicals, whatever is touring at the time. That's sort of my idea behind it. I've never been to America. I will say, obviously, Twinbrook is quite reminiscent of, I would say, New Orleans. That's the big vibe I sort of have got from it, which is something I do want to sort of bring the flavour of in a bit more, make it a bit more colourful, but I'll touch on that a bit later. But oh my God, I can't even remember what I was talking about. So sorry. Oh yes, I've never been to America. So I could be getting a lot of this wrong. I don't really know how America works in regards to local government grants and that sort of stuff. but I know in Australia this sort of stuff does happen occasionally. There are a few towns definitely near me. I can think of at least 3 or so where this sort of things happen. They've gentrified. They haven't necessarily got a giant arena built inside them, but just in the sort of Sims 3 way, that's sort of the only way to make the Showtime careers work. So I was like, you know what? I'll chuck them in. And I think it'll be cool. Like the idea with the precinct is that there's I think it's the Hoi Polloi big show venue, and also the Binder Clips Stadium I want to put in as well. And then there's a space in the middle where I would like to, in between the two 64 by 64 lots, where I sort of want to build like a community space, like an open space with like, you know, some grass. I'm also thinking there was a cafe that came with town life stuff. I'm also thinking trying to find a way to use that, because I've never ever used the town life stuff rabbit holes before, but I've always thought they're kind of cool. So I was like, well, maybe I'll try and incorporate that somehow into the design. Apologies if you don't have town life stuff. I know a lot of people don't, but I guess, you know, Sims 3 came out 7 years ago now. I'm sure it's cheap if you really want it. Or yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm going to do with the world design. But yeah, we'll just see where it takes us, really. I'm just happy playing around at the moment and exploring the features of Creator World and all that. So what I'm doing is, you can see I've been spending a bit of time sort of building a retaining wall, which I imagine is sort of like in the construction of this arts precinct. Obviously it was a swamp beforehand, so they've created a man-made, not an island, but just an extension of what was there previously. And then they've built a retaining wall all around it. It does lead to like, a semi-nice view. It's definitely not, you know, the Golden Gate Bridge or the Sydney Opera House or something, but it's nice enough, I suppose. By Twinbrook standards, it's lovely. So your Sims can, you know, sit in the green space and have a look at the view, that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think the vibe I'm sort of going for is reasonably self-explanatory, but it definitely needs refining and polishing, and you'll see at the end of the episode, I sort of get a shell of what I want, but it's not polished by any means. I'll come back and work on it in the future. What I'm doing right now, I was trying to build a park and then a separate lot for the cafe. You can sort of see that the precinct is not aligned to a grid at all, and sort of buildings are everywhere. And I was sort of like imagining like there's like the green space, and then behind that there's like a few different sort of shops and stuff like that. Realistically, I don't think there is enough room to do that. And I think it's probably bad for render times and stuff on people's computers. Which if your computer's anything like mine, will struggle enormously. It looks surprisingly good in a time lapse, but on my actual computer, it's not very fast. But that's okay. I am saving up for a new computer, so hopefully one day I can get one that is capable of running The Sims 3 correctly. Yeah, but also I'm sorry about the resolution. Again, my computer, I actually run the game on a Mac, but through Boot Camp, which is Apple's sort of support thing to run Windows. But unfortunately, the display I have is a Retina display, which has enormously high pixels. And my processor in my computer is just not powerful enough to record the game and run it at the same time. So that's why I'm running it downscaled, but it means the quality suffers on your end. unfortunately, but it's just impossible to record in a higher resolution. So hopefully you guys can bear with the bad production value for the minute. I promise I will work on it. I'd really love to, make this like a proper series and, interact with people and get feedback and stuff like that. I want to give it a go. I've never tried YouTube. And I was like, well, if I'm doing this for myself, maybe other people would like to sort of share the experience with me and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll see how we go. What I'm doing now is I'm building a car park, and I actually build 2 car parks for the precinct because I thought it looked a bit plain with just the one type of ground cover. And also, it just doesn't seem realistic for there to be no car parks. And I mean, even with this current car park, it's not big enough in the big scheme of things. It does not at all match the size of what you'd expect a car park for 2 giant stadiums to be. But hey, it's The Sims. We can pretend that it does work. So don't mind me. What I'm doing now is I wanted to find some billboards. These are from the Showtime expansion. And the idea was that the view looks into some private property from the car park. So I just wanted to sort of conceal that a bit by putting billboards out the front of it. It's also another thing that's quite common you'll find in big car parks, that there's like ads and stuff like that. I also think it sort of adds to the vibe and the hype of the space I'm trying to create. I'm sort of like imagining like you drive in and, there's the billboard for the show you're about to see and, all the lights are on and like it's really exciting. Yeah, that's sort of what I'm imagining. And I think when it's done, it'll look cool. You'll see at the end, I switch it to nighttime mode, and I'm surprised I even was able to do something like this. Like, Creator World's pretty hard to use. Like, I'm sure you guys don't struggle, but I haven't touched it since it came out in 2010. I haven't touched it for a long time, and coming back to it, it's not the easiest thing. But I'm impressed with my level of knowledge and how to do it. So yeah. So the plans with the rest of the town that I intend on doing. So there's obviously the arts precinct. I do have an interest in building a train interchange or a train station. Sort of, if you're familiar with the town, over the other side near like the science place and the criminal hideout, around there's lots of train tracks. And I'm thinking I'm imagining maybe the town is a terminus point for, a train line or something like that. So I think that could be something quite interesting. I don't know if it's possible. Obviously, there wouldn't be a functioning train or anything, but I just think it would be cool to build the tracks. I'd like to put up electric wires. I think that would look kind of cool. Make it again look a bit more modern. Maybe I don't know if I want to do custom content, but if I do, I might try and create a shell of a train and have a stabling yard or something like that. Just something to give the town a bit more life and make it seem a bit, more metropolitan than it is, rather than being out in Whoop Whoop, which is the definite vibe I'm getting with the EA version. I also do, in the sort of style of New Orleans, I have a bit of a sort of idea to do a tram or a light rail track running through the center of town. Similar also to, I think it's Willow Creek, in The Sims 4. I've never played The Sims 4 for more than half an hour at a time, but I think that main town that came with the base game, that one there, that had a tram in it, I think, as well. And I think that's where I got the idea from. I've had this idea forever, but I think that's where it came from. So I think, yeah, that could be kind of cool. So again, don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know if it's possible. Obviously, it's probably not going to function. But I mean, it could be possible. Like, there's the town Burroughsburg, I think it's called, the New York City sort of knockoff town. That's custom content, and that has some fantastic it has a subway and stuff in it. And I don't think it would work in the context that I'm trying to do it. Because it doesn't go from one end of the map to the other. But like, I reckon I could play around with it and see if I could get it to work. I don't know, actually. I might look into that. So now what I'm doing is I'm trying to build these here are like sort of like parking entry signs, I imagined. Again, with no custom content, I'm sort of limited to what already exists in the game. So these weren't the signs I wanted to use, but I thought it was cool. Again, adding to like that hype thing. It's like advertising the band that's playing tonight and being like, oh yeah, there's, still parks here in this car park and this car park's full, etc. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to find like an arrow or something pointing to the parking spaces. In the end, I went for this one. It's the diner, the Hogan's Deep Fried Diner sign, which is enormously tacky, but I guess it sort of plays the part. I don't know. It might not stay. I guess we'll find out. Again, today is just me sort of playing around and seeing, how the tool works and what's possible and that sort of stuff. I think I'm just obsessed with lights, really. Anything that's flashy in these assets, I'm like, oh my God, I want that. The thing that I do need to be a little bit careful of is not trying to over-commercialize the space, because definitely by doing all these ads, all these billboards and stuff, and having all these flashy lights, it does take away the community vibe. So yeah, that transition there. I went into the game and I got the stadiums out of the Starlight Shores world. I didn't edit them at all, but unfortunately, just at my computer just can't record the game. It's so slow, and the frames are just like, even in 4x speed, it looks terrible. So unfortunately, I didn't record the gameplay of me placing those lots. But don't worry too much, because I didn't build anything. I just literally placed EA's versions, and I will work out how to record in game when I go into properly making the lots. So what I'm doing just at the second, just for a little bit more realism, I'm just putting fences around the billboards and stuff like that. I should have put a ladder or something in. I guess you don't need to because it's LED, but I don't know. Just paving it. Just giving it a bit of a look, I guess, something a bit more interesting. And then we're going to cut here to sort of me finishing off my first lot of this video. So just at the minute, this is when I go in and check the times and see what the area looks like at different times of day. And I'm just trying to visualize sort of what it would be like if you were driving to a show, starting in the evening, sort of what it looks like. Here it is at 7 o'clock, all the lights are on. You've got the Hoi Polloi Centre on the left and Binding Clips on the right. And yeah, I really like it. Like, I mean, as Twinbrook is at the moment, it looks a bit silly because they're such big venues. But I think as we work on it in the future, it'll tidy up a bit, and I think it'll suit him really well. So thank you everyone for watching this first video of refurbishing Twinbrook. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any feedback, please leave a comment. Also like and subscribe if you like. Obviously, brand new channel, every view counts. I would really like to keep making this. So it'd be really fun to get a few people who want to come along on the journey with me. Alrighty. Thanks, guys.